Her Texas mixed up with Arkansas, you know.
Yeah.
That's, I guess they call that southern. And they really got more of a brogue than Arkansas does, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And Bush's
Where do you
brother
live
married
now?
a girl over in Texas.
Oh, do you?
She said, well, I'll tell you.
You all come back now. Yeah, like Leslie said, we really don't have that much of an accent compared to the people we live around.
Everybody knew Bush's voice. If you ever heard him, you recognized him on the phone.
Who's this?
Bush.
Oh.
Yeah. He was one of them hard noses. Yeah. You know, it's funny, way back, the men thought the wives should do this exactly what they told them to do.
Yes, that's right.
Boy, have they changed.
Well, yeah. They didn't know any differently. Didn't know any better. I mean, that's the way they were raised too.
There was one woman down there.
Now they're more educated and more independent.
Smarter.
Mama
in that aspect, really.
We'd see her, you know, and she'd see me. And Bush knew their family, and they had a big house, but they had a house out back, and she cooked in that house. That way, the other house didn't get heated up. Because the people didn't have electricity in the country then, you know. And he said she'd go out. And you think I'd go out in the dark and go out in the house to cook somebody's breakfast while they were sleeping?
Well, my grandmother was raised in a Southern family in Maryland, and she cooked down in the basement, kind of in the back of the house, and so it wouldn't heat up the house.
I know when you cooked in the house down there at night, you couldn't hardly sleep. It'd be so hot.
And they didn't have slaves, but they had the slaves' ancestors still working for them all the time on their little farm.
I guess the old man Levins that settled there, he had some, and in his will he had slaves going to different kids, you know. And but anyway, one time when I was a kid, we went uptown, and there's a little dark guy there, and he was hunting for a Blevins, and Papa finally seen him, and he talked to Papa a long time, and he said that their master was his grandfather was one that lived there. He said that he was really good to all them. I guess you know they do that in the stories, you know, about the slaves and stuff.
How they were mistreated, but a lot of them were treated real good, because if they were mistreated, then they got sick and hurt, and they couldn't bring in the crops, and that's where they made all their money. So they took care of them.
Well, just think of the hardship you had to undergo yourself as a child. I mean, you didn't have it that easy, and you had food and clothing and shelter, but that's about all they could provide for the slaves. Food, clothing, and shelter.
The place that we lived when I was a kid, and there must have been 7 or 8 colored people lived on them and farmed the land. I guess they call that 3rd and 4th. You know, you get so much of it when you do it. And I remember those colored people. I was little, and I'd heard somebody say when the little colored ones were born, they were white. So I nagged at my mama. I must have been about 5 or 6. So she took me down there so I could see that baby, and it was back at the rest of them. But anyway, I don't know why somebody said when they were newborn they were.
Yeah.
So I wanted to see.
Well, you've lived long enough to see that not everything is the way other people say it is. You know, just like this is not good for you.
Yeah. And
now it's good for you.
Yeah, I know it. Remember, they weren't going to let you eat but 1 or 2 eggs a week.
Yeah.
And now you can eat all that. They're good for you. And
when my dad worked, when my dad worked, Mom always cooked him breakfast. His breakfast was the same for years. 2 eggs over easy, 2 pieces of bacon, and 2 pieces of toast. And that was it.
And that was it, yeah.
Every day for as long as my mother was alive, just about.
Yeah.
And he didn't die of artery trouble or anything like that.
No, and when they were going that, there's an old man had it in the paper, and I forget, he was nearly 100, and he said he'd eat 3 eggs for breakfast and whatever all his life, and he was still going good, and he had smoked a cigar every night, and he eat what he wanted.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just.
I think it's what they put in our food when they're growing it that's making people need the stuff that they gotta have now.
That's true.
And the processing itself,
Yeah.
they put in
that MSG,
that
preservatives, and all
now
that
they're
stuff.
realizing that plastic stuff they wrap the cereal in and canned food, that
Oh,
lining
yeah.
in beside the
I know
can,
that.
now they're realizing there's chemicals in there that are carcinogens.
The doctor comes on here every day at 3, and he's talking about all that stuff, and he's telling about all that plastic stuff that's bad for you and all that. And no telling, we don't know what we eat when we buy it anymore.
Leslie and I, we eat as much fresh as we can eat.
Yeah, that's true.
And if I honestly feel that if you watch what you eat, then you're going to age. That's your destiny. That's what's in your genes.
Yeah.
And it's when we put other substances in our body that cause us to die before our time and stuff.
You mean like Scotch?
Yeah, Scotch. I like that Scotch. That Scotch is good.
Did you see in the news the other night about that cow they cloned?
No.
That said its milk will be the closest thing to mother's milk.
Huh.
No, I didn't see
Yeah.
that.
Huh.
From the clone cow, not the cow that they used to clone it with.
Aunt Lorene, I'm recording your voice. And can you tell us any stories about your grandparents that you can remember?
Not too much. We didn't live close, and once or twice a year we went in the, well, Papa bought an old Model T one time, but you know, you didn't see people very often when you had to go in a wagon, because you had on the farm, you had too many chores to do. You couldn't leave home very long, and
couldn't just run over there and run right back.
I remember Mama used to go down to Grandpa's. I was the youngest one. She'd take me with her sometime, and she's going to take me to my dad's brother's family one night and stay all night. And I pitched one of them youngish kid pits, you know. I didn't want to go there. I wanted to go to Grandpa's, and she took me over on skirts anyway. I'll never forget that. Made me so mad. I didn't get all what I wanted that night. But I didn't know them very well, and we hadn't see them very much, you know.
Yeah.
And we had to walk from the church to their house, so Grandpa was walking with us, and he thought Mom wasn't bad to make me go. I used to get sick every time we'd ride in that old Model T and smell the gas all the time.
I can remember Grandma King I can remember the last time I went down there, she was still scared to ride in a car.
Oh, she was nervous.
Yes.
When Chester was in the CC camp, and you know, they had that for a lot of the boys, and we took her up there to see him. That's the first time he'd been away from home, and me and Bush took her and somebody else. And it was really hilly country roads, you know, and rocky, and she was a nervous wreck, sick time she got home.
I know she didn't want to put that seatbelt on.
Oh, she didn't want to see. I know she'd get all nervous in the car. She never had drove. She had a car after all died, and she had a car. I don't know if it was a Model 8, I guess it said. And then that old Jack. She never had drove. She got in that old car and drove to town. Papa was so mad.
Because she'd never driven before?
No. Well, hey, that guy was something else. I don't know, but he come from Alabama.
I've never seen a picture of him.
I don't. We didn't have no picture. We didn't take spin pictures then. She might have had one. I don't know what. She might have thrown it away.
Yeah.
He was one when they was going to Alabama, and James was about 2 years old or 3, and he got sick, and they stopped at the station to do something to the car, and so they took him. Somebody must have called him, and they took him to the hospital, and Jack tried to get her to leave that baby there.
Huh.
They was going to move into Alabama.
I'll be darned.
I guess he was more jealous of her than of James, you know, because he was smaller when they got married. I don't know why.
He probably required a lot of attention from Grandma because he was little.
He's still he's still a little boy. He used to stay with us a lot. One time we used to get those teeny little ants come in the house, and Mama had a syrup pitcher, and then he wanted some syrup and a biscuit and butter. Mama gave it to him, and he said, "Grandma, what do I smell?" And she kept trying. She says, "I don't know." And she went to look, and them little tiny, we call them piss ants. I don't know what that was, but they crawled up and they got in that syrup pitcher, and he'd eat a bite of that syrup, you know, and you could taste it, and they had got in there.
Oh,
Then one time he got sick when he was there at our house, and he got an eggshell, and he, you know, was putting it in his mouth, but he had a fever. And Mama would have kept him. She would have let him.
You should have kept my dad?
Yeah. Because he sure liked Grandma.
Did he really?
Even after she married Bill, he decided he'd go down there and stay with Mama and Papa. He just went down there. He stayed a week. And Clara was worried to death, and Mama said, "Well, let him alone." Said he'll get lonesome for home pretty soon. And he stayed there about a week, and then he went home. But he wasn't very big then. Well, Jackie was a little bitty thing. She had that real black hair, and one of her cousins decided he'd cut Jackie's hair. He's about 3 too. And Sarah said she couldn't get it trimmed enough that you couldn't see where he had cut it.
Oh no! I never did meet Jackie. I remember Daddy calling her.
Yeah.
He kept in contact with her, and he'd call her and check on her, and like I said, most family I heard them talk about was Bush and Lorene and Myra and Olin.
Yeah, well, he stayed with us, and then when he left Cheyenne, you know, he moved out to Oregon.
He just kept following you guys, didn't he?
Yeah. And then he went to Alaska.
Did you guys go up to Alaska too?
No, he went up there, and then he come back to Cheyenne. Yeah, when he moved out with them boys, after they stayed there with us in Cheyenne, Jack and
Bill Whitley.
There was another one of them boys, but he used to come over, but he worked in meat market. I can't remember his name. But there's all them poor boys, and then sometimes they'd come out and wake our kids up about 11, 12 o'clock and take them to buy them ice cream.
At night?
Yeah, boys, my boys was tickled to death when he'd go get them out of bed.
That's what Lynn was telling me yesterday.
Oh my goodness!
Come out there and wake them up in the middle of the night. Go get ice cream.
Lynn Carl saw one of the boys when they was back in Wyoming once, and they said, "We want to buy you some ice cream." He was about ready to let them buy it. Yeah,
he must have really liked all your kids.
Yeah, he did. He used to put Carl on a little stroller, and then he was with us when Lynn was born. No, he was out there when Lynn was born, I think. Or maybe he just got him an apartment there.
He kind of grew up with your kids.
Mm-hmm. And we lived there when Carl was born, or he'd come over maybe once a week, spend the night with us. Yeah.
Were you in Cheyenne then?
That was in Arkansas.
Oh, okay.
That's when Carl was born.